Friday night on PJNet Live. Hazards 4 is playing the tunes. We've got Refugee in the green room. We've got a swamp background for the Bayou Country, and we are going to switch to studio number 5 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, if your hair is up, let's put it down. It's Friday night. Hazards 4 is playing the tunes. It is time to relax. It's time to party. It's time for... Refugee is knocking on the door in our green room. He says he is trying to put his hair down, but he's got it in a bun of some kind, it looks like, and we won't have that next week. But Roger, so much has happened. You have survived the tropical storm. You have a new phone. What are you doing with all this new phone thing? Are you now going to be the internet guru that we all once knew?
I hope so, Mark. It's a Samsung A50. Instead of a dual-core processor, it's a 4-core processor. Instead of 1 gig of RAM, it's 4 gigs of RAM. And instead of 16 gigs of memory, it's 64 gigs of memory. Upgradable to, and this just blows me away, a half a terabyte. The idea that I can now go buy a little chip and put it in my phone and that it will contain a half a terabyte of solid state, non-movable memory that in theory should last forever, just blows me away, Mark.
Well, you're not the only one upgrading. I am in the process of building a new computer. My existing one has a 6-core single processor, but we're going to a dual processor, and we will be 4 cores each, so that'll be faster. And instead of 24 gigs of RAM, I'll have 64. And hopefully I'll be able to get the USB 3.0, which has been kind of plaguing us here from time to time when our thing freezes up. But I want to be able to simultaneously broadcast, which we're doing now, live streaming, but I want to simultaneously record, which I cannot do, I don't think. I may try it toward the end of the show. Because it'll bring it into not responding and all that. The reason I want to do that is when we do the live stream, I have to wait almost an hour for YouTube to process the live stream into a downloadable finished product that is now visible on YouTube. So I have to wait an hour, and then I'm taking that and making these 45-second highlight things, and I post the highlights directly onto Twitter and onto Facebook, and those get some views. Now, I'm not saying a lot, but compared to the number of views on YouTube, they are knocking it out of the park. And so I'm encouraged by that. Plus, I get the musical score. They move faster. And I think if we did that over a period of time, it would help build the brand. And even if people may not see it the first time and react to it, if they see it over and over and over. And I've also opened a Dropbox account. Now, if anybody out there is expert on Dropbox, I hope that you'll contact me as soon as we get off the air. Because what I want to do is upload these promo videos to a public place where anybody can just go download them. Because for you to tweet it or to put it on Facebook, you've got to have the actual video, as if you had made the video yourself. You can't put a link to it. That won't work. Because what I'm finding is the people are not likely to click a link to a YouTube video, especially if they know it's 30 minutes. So we put the highlights together, and I think if we did that if we sustained that over a period of time, I think that'll kind of jar it loose. The other new thing that's happening that you haven't seen yet is on Friday nights. Hazards 4 has become our new personality. He does a video monologue that he opens the Friday night show with. Now, the first one he did, I was proud of him because he did it, but it basically stunk other than that. but you got to admire the courage. It's not easy to do that kind of thing. And then the second one was noticeably better, and the third one, he's actually starting to get animated.
He's getting it together. He's getting animated.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to check it out, Mark.
Yeah, it's really good. And so that adds a lot, and it's just real grassrootsy, very home family I think it's we're the best kept secret on the internet, so
Mark, I want to tie something in to everything you've been talking about, because you're talking about technology and you're talking about how to grow this thing. And I want to tell a little story of struggle I had this week, because it's going to tie in with all this. Okay, so I have this new phone, and Mark, dang it, if I didn't start having some technical problems on the new phone right away. Okay. But then there's the problem of I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is the problem? Is it a problem with the phone? Is it a problem with the network? Is it because I don't know how to do the settings on my phone? Or is it because this particular program that I'm going to talk about in a minute, I'm going to give a plug to it actually, but a particular program that I attempt to run 24/7 on my phone that can be pretty memory dependent is crashing my phone. And Mark, that program is Covenant Eyes, and that's a Christian-owned business. And it works incredibly well when it works incredibly well. Okay, and they also have really, really good customer service when it doesn't work incredibly well. But what it does is a couple of different things. One, Covenant Eyes will block any known porn sites from your phone. They've also got an added feature now that you can just go in and add and tell it to block any site that you want it to block that won't come up. It also has artificial intelligence that, whether you're on the internet or not, sort of notices if it thinks you might be looking at porn, and will take a screenshot of it and send it to your accountability partner. Okay. It also randomly 8 times a day takes a screenshot and sends it to your accountability partner. So the first thing I wanted to do is just give them a big plug. But how much of a plug is it if it's crashing all the time, and if it's not working, and if it's causing me problems with my phone? Right. Well, I talked not only to their customer service, but to the owner of the company this week. And let me tell you what's going on with them. And it ties on what's going on with us. Now, first of all, they're pretty big. They've got a lot of users. If you check out their number of downloads in the store, it's huge, and they really took off big. But they're starting to crash a lot. And what he finds every time, it's because one of the big boys, sometimes it's Google, sometimes it's Microsoft, sometimes it's one of the phone makers, sometimes it's one of the carriers. But basically, one of the big tech companies has changed something that is causing his program to crash. And when he finds it, he really can't find any reason for them to have made the change. But he fixes it, and then a different company changes something a week later. Okay, and he's running into the same problems. The YouTubes, the Twitters, the Microsoft, Apple, these companies make a tremendous amount of money off pornography. And people don't realize how much money they make off pornography, because people are like, does anybody really pay for pornography anymore? You can get so much of it.
It's not something we openly talk about either.
It's not something we'll talk about. But here's the thing about the pornography websites, even if they're free, the people that are paying for data mining, paying those sites, that's not free. And the people that are advertising on those sites, that's not free. Right. So a lot of money is being made. And basically, these companies, they not only don't like conservatives, they don't like Christians, but just from a financial aspect, they really don't like, they've kind of been stomaching it with the kids, with parents doing it for their kids for years, but they're really upset about large numbers of men starting to block pornography from their phones and losing access to that business. Of course, we're seeing the same thing in the world of politics. Mark, I looked at Ted Cruz give a talk the other day that scared the hell out of me, because he's really, what he was talking about was the power of Google. And if largely unchecked and partially in bed with Democrats in government, he said this is millions of votes that they can switch. Okay, it's millions of votes that they can switch by causing certain stories not to trend, or by causing other stories to trend.
But the Russians interfered with our election.
Exactly. So, Silicon Valley, they're going after the church. They're going after conservative politicians. They're going after Christianity. And they're going after men and women themselves. They're going after our very bodies, our very souls. Mark, I met a real good friend at a spiritual thing that I went to for men who struggle with lust. Mm-hmm. And he asked me to do him a favor. And at first I was reluctant because you know what I really hate, Mark? I hate politically correct language. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm like, words should mean things. Words should be able to keep meaning things. And I should be able to use, the proper language. But he asked me never again to say that he struggled with homosexuality and to say that he struggled with same-sex attraction. Mm-hmm. And I kind of told him what my problem with that was. And he said, well, let me tell you why it's important to me. Okay. And he said, they've changed the meaning of the word homosexual. Mm-hmm. And he said, and people inside and outside of the gay community, and people that are like sort of pro-gay movement and people that are anti-gay movement, even they don't have the same definition. He says, when you say homosexuality, you could be talking about the disorder. You could be talking about the attraction. You can be talking about the behavior, going out and having sinful gay sex. Mm-hmm. You could be talking about a personality. You can be talking about the political agenda. And one of the things that the left is trying to do, and by the way, the left hates the term SSA. They hate it. They're saying that only right-wingers are saying SSA. And they're almost saying SSA hate speech, which makes me feel better about saying it because I don't like to change the way I talk. And they specifically want you to say gay or homosexual. But of course, they previously ruined the word gay. But one of the reasons that they try to combine all these things in a term, Mark, they're trying to sell the prospect that sex is not optional. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to sell the prospect that a human being cannot survive without sex. Hence, if a human being is homosexual, it is impossible for him to not have sex. So there's no difference between the disorder and the sinful behavior. He also pointed out to me that while he had this struggle, that he didn't identify himself with that struggle, that he identified himself as a Christian, but that he did like to admit his problems sometimes because he liked to reach out to other men that struggled with same-sex attraction and be able to, reach them spiritually and talk to them. But it was fascinating. It's all, but all of this is tied together. I mean, I know I'm kind of, casting this wide net.
Yeah, reel it in.
Okay, the satanic war on the soul, the promotion of pornography, the attack on capitalism, the attack on conservative values, the attack on our bourgeoisie, it's all related. It's a common enemy, Mark. Yeah. And it's a common group of enemies that we're working against.
Well, let me ask you this question, or try to make some encouraging news out of this. I think that the reason that they have ramped up, it used to be that they might have been tinkering with it. They might have been isolating certain individuals and trying to mute them. But now Google has announced publicly that they're going to do everything they can to keep Donald Trump from getting reelected. So it's out. They're out of the closet, so to speak. Here's my point. There was a time, Roger, when we made a difference, and as soon as we started making a difference, guess what?
They had to crush us. So we did.
So the reason that they are doing this is because we were being effective. Mm-hmm. They were, in that sense, they fear us.
They absolutely fear us.
That's good.
That is good.
Now, my theory is that, first of all, we're trying to make some, do some experiments to find out, I know the headwind that we're running against. You've kind of described it in very lengthy terms. But we're going to be swimming upstream. Yes, we're going to be running against a headwind, but that's no reason not to wage war. And right. That is what we're doing here. Now, I want to do this in a positive way, in an encouraging way. I don't want to speak doom and gloom and conspiracy theories, and you can't win, and we're going to lose the republic if we lose this next, legislative initiative. Those aren't my thoughts. My thoughts
Although I do have to admit that when my home state senator, who I have mixed feelings about, but he's really been growing on me lately, talked about the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse. It was funny. And the funny thing is he's criticized Trump for his hyperbole before. And earlier in the conversation, he's like, well, I told Donald Trump that I don't think these Twitter wars really help him. But I guess when you're dealing with the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse.
But you need to dial back the rhetoric, Trump. Okay.
Yeah, I got a huge laugh at that.
Well,
And
here's my theory is, okay, I know we're running against a headwind, but we're going to keep marching. We're going to keep leaning forward against it and that kind of thing. But I have been working for weeks and months, if not longer, trying to say, okay, we'll take this directly to the people. We'll take this literally to the streets. And I have been engineering like crazy, and we're actually going to have another little test gig up in North Carolina in August, around the 8th, 9th, 10th, something like that. We won't be doing a lot there. We'll be getting a lot of footage, but it'll give me a chance to put some of this gear on the road, just the logistics, and the cost and all that kind of thing. But the goal is we could literally take it to the streets, literally have street parties. I would prefer to do it indoors. So churches would be an ideal venue, but it's not the only venue. And we could literally, I've already got a 10-foot screen, 10 foot wide. I will be getting get this, 16 feet wide screen, and all the trussing. You see the trusses over here and over there. Okay.
And imagine my beautiful face, 16 feet wide.
Yeah, there you go. I'm also looking at putting together some copywriting is another big stumbling block. You can't just play music to a crowd. You can watch that same music on YouTube, those same videos in your home. But when you put it through a public address system, that is now a copyright issue, and also you'd have to have internet access to do that. YouTube very specifically says, no, you can't download this content and then play it publicly. You cannot do that, period. I mean, they make that very clear. But I have worked in radio. I am familiar with ASCAP, CSAC, and BMI. And I'm not beyond placing a phone call to them saying, just give me a license. What would it cost? I mean, it probably cannot be afforded right now, but I'd like to know what arrangements could be made and how much it would cost in the future. But I think we'll be able to do like many little Trump rallies on a smaller scale.
I would hope they would have a pricing system that had something to do with the size of your reach. I mean, I would imagine
they do.
In radio, the little Podunk AM radio station in Nowhere, Arkansas, has got to be paying less, than a huge,
Roger, I worked at a Podunk radio station in Monticello, Florida, and I know what we paid. Back then, it was $400 a month. That was back in the 70s. But it was literally based on your revenue, your market. They just said how much are you grossing. They would adjust the fee. There was a minimum fee, and I think we were paying the minimum. But whatever it is, I'd like to know what the arrangement is, because it disturbs me, Roger, that when I was growing up, going to school, we would have an assembly. We'd all go into the auditorium, and we would sing "This Is My Country." There'll be bluebirds over the white, patriotic stuff. Roger, I am concerned that if you played a song such as "This Is My Country" to a millennial, they might recognize the tune, but I doubt seriously they would know the lyrics.
They wouldn't know the lyrics.
And I just would love to have some God and country concerts. And I love concerts. I love the stage. I love the laser lights I'm looking at. Oh man. Oh dude. You would be surprised. Oh, and by the way, in doing some research, I looked at they are literally doing concerts that do not have artists. I'm serious as a heart attack, and it is scary because it is very satanic.
It's all artificial intelligence.
Well, it's laser. It's laser shows. And there is audio, but it is so satanic. So satanic. But I can look at that as a scientist and say, the same thing, that tool can be used for Christ.
Yes.
Okay, propaganda is propaganda. Okay, it's just a matter of, is it evil or is it good?
Satan didn't create anything. He took good things that God created and corrupted them.
Well, I'm holding in my hand a knife. It is a tool. It can be used for good or it can be used for evil. The tool is agnostic. Okay, it doesn't care. Doesn't know and doesn't care. Well, the internet itself is a tool. All that surrounds us here, all that we're doing here is tools. So I'm trying to make this an exportable product, because right now we're exporting to YouTube, and quite frankly, it's going thud. So,
Mhm.
all right, so fine. Where can we focus this energy and where it can get some traction, where it'll be visible? I know that just us aren't the only ones that feel this way. I know
Right.
that. So how do we connect with those people? And I know this with all my heart. If somebody visits here and comes in here, they are going to feel welcomed, they're going to feel loved, and they're going to feel accepted, and they're going to feel like that they matter. And
Okay.
and the reason they feel that way is because they are loved, they are accepted, and they do matter. That's
Mhm.
why. And that's the environment I want to create. But if you're trying at this point, we're doing better now in technical merit, okay, and quality, then we're doing 10 times better than when we were doing 500,000, 750,000 impressions on Twitter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We are far better, okay, but now the thumb is on the other side of the scale because they noticed us. We
Right.
made a difference, and they couldn't allow that. So we got to figure out how to fight back, and we don't have the resources financially that they do, but we didn't have them then. Okay.
No, but we keep fighting while we're figuring it out. We keep
Yeah.
fighting while we're figuring it out, and we keep working towards the goal. I thought of a funny story. It's not real relevant, but you reminded me of it when you talked about the thing with the music. Do you remember what happened with Donald Trump and Neil Young during the election?
No.
I don't know if you noticed it. Donald Trump was playing the heck out of a Neil Young song for a while at his
Oh yeah.
campaign
Okay. It's coming
rallies.
back to me. It's coming back to me. Go ahead.
And Neil Young basically came out and threatened to sue Donald Trump that I don't support you and blah 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 and you don't have any right to play my music. And Trump came out with one of his, I say a tweet, it was a series of tweets, like it always is. And he says, it's funny. The last time I heard from Neil Young, he was in my office telling me how much he loved me and begging me for money. Because he wanted me to invest in this new speaker that he's come up with, because the guy, for all the songs that he wrote and everything, has been a bit of a financial failure. And but I wasn't too impressed with his product, and I didn't buy money. But one thing I do want to tell him is that in such and such a year, he sold his old catalog of music to such and such a company. Well, I bought that company in such and such a year. So, Neil, I own your music. And technically, I can keep you from playing it and saying it without my permission.
Only Donald Trump could get away with that.
It was just like, oh man, it was just,
I will
it was,
quote the American Refugee and say, he may be an asshole, but he's our asshole.
I think I was quoting Wild Bill for America when I said that. I remember when I said that, but I think I remember, I can't find it, but I think I remember Wild Bill for America saying it before I did.
Colonel West probably coined that phrase. He was talking about some of the Middle East leaders that we have backed that have been toppled and replaced, and he says they might not have been great guys, but they were our guys. He may not have been a great man, but he was our man. And I think that kind of mutated into other forms of irony in any event. So next week we hope to get a better set of headgear, speaker, microphone. The audio is a little bit compromised tonight, but we're working with new gear. We are working.
The video's good, huh?
The video's great, and we're working on making arrangements for Refugee to have a actual real internet connection from his Bayou estate, where he resides. And so we're going to continue to work on technical merit, but I am under no delusion that technical merit is going to make the difference. What's going to make the difference, folks, is headcount. And the good news is we have an extremely dedicated team. Refugee and I were speaking in the green room off the air. He is committed. I am committed. Dale Didway is committed. Michelle Medlock Adams is committed. Casper's. We've got some good people that are committed to this and give of themselves very sacrificially. We have got the greatest core group in our chat room who keep coming night after night, week after week, month after month, when really there is no justifiable reason based on the metrics, okay? But see, it's not about, I'm into metrics, Okay, I'm a
Right.
scientist. But see, what it is there's something down here in us that wants to see the needle move outside in the culture. We're
Well,
wanting
let
to
me
see
cheer you
change.
out with a metric that you probably haven't checked, because I bet it's pretty high. What percentage of the people that come keep coming back?
All of them, yeah. Well,
Just nobody's coming, or very few people.
well,
But hey, if we can, if we can get some more people coming.
well, we also, like I said, we've lost our technological leverage on Twitter, and
Right.
that's hurt. But even when we had that refugee, we were in effect riding a wave. Okay, we had a tremendous tailwind in the political landscape with the Ted Cruz campaign, and especially in the Planned Parenthood defunding. Benghazi kind of got us started, but the fact is we were writing. Now, in many ways, we were leading it, okay, and we were among a very few that were really pounding Twitter, and it made a difference. But then all of a sudden, a study is commissioned by the University of Pennsylvania to study the effects of social media on the Common Core debate, and I can assure you, I was interviewed by them, and that the way that interview went, when I read the article, it's like, did they not hear a word I said? I mean, we were portrayed exactly opposite, and it's like, wait a minute, why did you have the guy call to get the facts if you're going to report something different than that?
Right.
And we were characterized, we were grouped in with the Russian botnet, which I'm not even sure that existed, but if it did, we weren't part of it, nor we were not even and are not a botnet. We are human beings using.
I don't know if you remember this or not. You probably do, because I think it was one of the things I taught you how to do. I was really into finding on the apps. And yeah, you got into it. I taught you how to. Do you remember that on the American Refugee account, you learned to do it? I used to, on a weekly basis, I use software to go into my followers and try and identify fake followers,
Right.
Try and identify bots,
And
try and identify
loose.
people
And
who had
shake them
20
loose.
different, and get rid of them. I don't force them to unfollow me.
Right.
I would
Not
knock it loose. I didn't want it. I didn't mind if somebody had 3 accounts for a legitimate reason,
All right,
and they
stop for a
followed
minute.
me.
Stop a minute. We're not just talking about unfollowing them. We're talking about causing them to, not only do we unfollow them, we cause them to unfollow us. And the way that's done manually is you simply block it and then unblock it. So
and it's done.
It's done. Now there's automation that'll do that a lot easier. But I called it combing the accounts.
We were obsessed, and we had little metrics. We would run these programs on our account that would estimate the number of fake followers that we had, and we didn't like it to be any higher than 1%. Okay, like we like to keep our number of fake followers below 1%.
Right.
And yeah.
And so I think, and we were actually, managing the social media accounts
of Senate candidates
for some candidates, and
gubernatorial candidates.
I was just looking through Peter Greenwald's timeline. By the way, he scrubbed all those great tweets because he's running again, and he basically wanted to scrub the old ones. But we had his tweets were getting 250 retweets, and I'm just talking about organically. I'm not talking about us trying to pump it up with automation. They were that good.
In fact, finally, what his opponent's campaign did in the primary to start catching up with him on social media, and I could tell by the hours that they did it, they just hired. They had a lot of money, and they hired a full-time employee.
They had staff.
What that employee would do is immediately go follow every single person that Peter Greenwald followed or that followed Peter Greenwald.
They literally they
Yeah.
had the equivalent of a Twitter boiler room.
Yeah, they
exactly.
did.
And
so what we were doing on a just a real part-time basis, they put serious money into, and they copied what we were doing. Which was flattering.
And he got elected by doing it.
He got elected. And he was a pretty good congressman too.
Yeah.
And now he lost a seat.
He lost.
He was a legitimate conservative constitutionalist candidate.
Well, he would have been a long run like they all are, but we throw gas on the fire. And by the way, I did correspond with him, and he did reply, and I think the day will come and we'll see Peter Greenwald here on PJNet Live, but when that will be, I don't know. But nonetheless, we want to give people a voice, a platform. But of course, to do that, we've got to expand it. But I don't want anybody to be discouraged. I want everybody to know what we're up against. And I think that the people here are prepared to go the long haul. And we've gotten away from some of the very basics, in spite of the fact that we've gotten better. In fact, Tammy is in the chat room right now. The reason she's here is she was personally invited.
Right.
Okay? And when we had more energy and more momentum, we were inviting people, but we've kind of gotten away from that. Announcing things and tweeting them are a good thing to do. We should do it, but that is not a substitute for reaching out and personally inviting one-on-one, just knocking on doors, and it does work. But the thing is, Tammy continues to be here night after night. But think about the legions of people that have come and gone. And this is actually the nature of politics. People get energized on an issue, but that issue comes and goes. Well, the cultural change that we're trying to effect is going to transcend any particular legislative agenda. We've got our Common Core folks, we've got the FairTax folks, we've got the COS project folks, now there's the new Preserve the Electoral College folks, and those are all great issues. They really are. But it's hard to find a group of people that are saying that is the battle, but this is the war. Okay, but they get very focused on that particular issue, and they see anything else as irrelevant. They're very Benghazi. Remember Stan out in Colorado?
Sure.
He was very, 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 very active. But when
is our buddy Glenn still pounded on the FairTax?
A little bit. By the way, Greenwald is an outspoken FairTax supporter, and I gave Glenn a heads up, saying, it seems to me that if you're serious about this, anybody that will say good things about it, I would get behind them. But they're up against what we're up against, Refugee. It's hard to sustain enthusiasm when you just keep getting your ass handed to you.
Yeah, it is. And we have to build each other up, and we have to pray, and everything like that,
it's
And
tough. Well, I'll tell you what. Hey, I've enjoyed talking to you. We could probably go on another 15 or 20 minutes, but here's the problem. I've got to wait for YouTube to process this and stay up till 2 o'clock tonight. So the shorter we keep it, the easier that is until I get my new. Let's do the test, okay? Because folks, we may crash right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the record button and try to continue, and let's see what happens. So I have the record button going. And we are concurrently recording this as we are.
So we're recording
streaming
right now.
Yes, we are. We are both recording and we are live. Now, if the computer continues to sustain itself, that'll be good news. Even though we're getting a bigger computer. Okay, we're getting some real horsepower. Let me take a look at the chat room here. Tammy from Georgia, one of our most enthusiastic. She has been struggling with something something about, Refugee. Her air conditioner broke down.
Ooh. Yeah, I know a lot about that.
Yep.
And it is too hot in the deep south, and it is too humid to live without it. It just is. Mark, I went insane. We'll close with this little insane story just so that you can record for another minute. Last weekend, there were power glitches and there were internet glitches, and
with the storm, right? Yeah,
with the storm and all this stuff. Well, but it got to, and I don't know if it's PTSD from previous storms or whatever, but I lost any sense of emotional normality. And when I had the power had gone out once, when the power came back on, are we still going?
Oh yeah, I'm just playing around.
Okay. When the power came back on, I set every AC on maximum cold.
There you go.
And when my roommate was upset that it was 62 degrees, I was yelling and screaming at him, do not touch that. It's going to go out and it's going to go up. And that's at night. I got to 60. I got it to 60 degrees in the middle of the night. And I heard him getting up to turn it off. And I'm like, don't you dare turn it off. And of course, I got chicken biscuits and not real chicken. You know those things they sell in the box and they're little crackers, but somehow they taste like chicken and they call them chicken biscuits, and the squeezy spray cheese. It's like the perfect hurricane food. And I'm just sitting there.
It's the perfect heart attack is what it is.
I'm sitting there eating the chicken biscuits with squeezy cheese in a 60-degree apartment, yelling and screaming at my poor roommate not to turn off the AC. So I didn't handle it the best. But that was just the fear. It was the trauma of, oh, my God, the power's going to go out. It's going to be so hot and humid. So, hey, that's pretty cool, Mark.
I'm just pressing a few buttons, trying to put some stress, on the system to see will it crash. And I am glad to report that thus far it has handled this smoothly, and that's very important because if I could record this concurrently, I wouldn't have to wait an hour for YouTube to process the video, because until they process it, I cannot download it. So there's a wasted hour there.
Hugely important. Hugely important.
And this will help me be more productive, because I'm cautiously enthused about the 45-second highlights because it has a musical score, so it moves quickly. And it shows, the more animated moments or the more profound moments, whichever. I try to mix it up. I try to get some content, what the subject matter was. And I just love producing videos. It's just great propaganda. But again, I'll appeal to anybody listening. If you are competent or expert in Dropbox, I want to make a public folder that anybody can go to with a link and download anything they want to, whether they have a Dropbox account or not. Or if not Dropbox, some other alternative, an FTP type. I could build an FTP server to do it, but that way people would have access to promotional propaganda to promote, and we could increase the headcount. We got to start with what we've got, but you start posting these things, and then we're getting pretty good cooperation and teamwork between our weekly guests. But a lot of times that's in the form of a like, on Facebook or Twitter, which is good because we can do better by reposting. And I'm seeing that occasionally my processor goes from green to yellow, but never does it go to red. It's about 62% right now, but back in the old days, Roger, when we used Skype, it was routinely at 80 and 90% buried in the red, but we kept going. So I think we may have some good news there for me personally, because we can get to work earlier. Won't be able to do it tonight because I was afraid to record the entire show, because if it went non-responsive, the show would be over.
Okay, Mark. Well, hopefully by next week we will both have better technology, and we'll just keep improving things.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do Hazards a favor, and we're going to turn things back over to him because he is our host tonight, and we're keeping him from doing what he does best. Roger, you're a good man, and I appreciate your commitment. I appreciate your insights, and it's just going to get better and better and better. Right here.
God bless you, Mark. God bless everybody.
DJ Net Live. There you go.
All right.